get the screen share up here. Okay. Okay. So this market, in some ways, the cure for insomnia when you're talking Bitcoin. So Bitcoin continues to go sideways. It is okay that it's holding above 11,300. My Gann work shows it, that means it's all right. I think the juicy trader buy using other work would be 11,100. But I'm beginning to think that Bitcoin is the new stable coin. In other words, the world maybe has flipped, ironically. And Bitcoin, rather than being this wild instrument, I mean, that doesn't mean it can't go up or down a lot, but for the moment, it's like a stable coin. Okay, now Ether. Ether's done this nice little bounce off this area I had at 375. So we're kind of in the middle of a range. So in some ways, as a trading point of view, there's not much to do. But it can uptick itself to 400. It can, if 375 holds. All right. Now, let's talk about something more interesting. This is our favorite chart, alt market cap. And I'm looking at a 3-day chart. Now, one of the things that I've seen before big alt drops is what they call like a shooting star candlestick. That basically means alts go all the way up and then come all the way back down where they started. That's happened recently, and that's happened the last 2 times. Now, what do I want to see? I actually want to see this pattern not work as an analyst, right? In other words, I want the market to demonstrate some sort of pattern change. And how would it do that? Well, it would do it by holding itself stable. Okay. In other words, the last couple times you've seen these shooting star formations, alts have pretty much turned around and gone straight down, right? Probably led by Ether. So I'm looking for a change in behavior. And I actually think, the price action, even though it may not be exciting, okay, in some ways, dull is better than a trajectory to zero. So that's the market update for this week.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Bill. Now let's go to Trader Cobb. What's your update on the market? How do you view Bitcoin? How do you view Ethereum, altcoins, and capital markets?
You don't know how stoked I am, Bill, to hear you say what you said. It's a pleasure to speak with somebody who sounds like they know what they're talking about in my eyes. Great. I'm so happy. You've got no idea how happy I am to what you're talking about is very similar to what I'm talking about, mate. I'll just bring up my shared screen just here and show you what I'm looking at. Now, to talk to Bitcoin, you can all see that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, sweet. Let's go Bitcoin first. Look, I use slightly different things, and of course, that comes as no shock to anybody that traders do look at things in different ways. For me, I've been really focusing on the weekly a lot. For me, I just trade trends. So, coming back here, I did quite well out of a few DeFi projects and was holding it into Tether. Went back in at 10,550, 10,150, and 10,050 throughout this fall here. And they've got this little bullish candle right there. So I just use a 10-period moving average, the 20-period, and the MACD, and it's pulled right back in beautifully. And it's looking really nice. It's just taking its damn time. Look, at the moment, as you said, Bill, it's pretty bloody boring. And you squirrel down a little bit lower and check this out. Like the frustration for me as a trend trader on Bitcoin is that when it's going up so quickly. There's not really much for me personally to be trading through here. There's potential through here, but it would have been high risk, and I wasn't at that stage in that high risk, sort of space. Then it does this. That was all last week. That was Monday where it shot up, and then it does nothing. So it's very sideways. Again, I'll agree with you that it's better than, it's not bad, but it certainly isn't like, yay, it's fantastic. The one thing I think it's got going for it is that it did pull back a little bit. I would have liked to have seen it come back into this support level, this 11.1 rough region, 11.1, whatever it is. But it's got that little bullish candle. It's broken the high. It's a little bit of bullishness, but there ain't too much there. Ethereum, on the other hand, has got resistance ahead at 394. Realistically, in my eyes, it's 400. A little higher low here. The weekly, although not as clean as Bitcoin's weekly, look, not as clean. It's pulled back into that same region, and it's been a really nice uptrend. And finally, there's two things that I can add to. Sorry, one other chart that I can add to what you said, Bill. I got long Binance yesterday, just in here. It's my little cradle trade sort of setup. Good convergence, good cyclicity, moving averages in agreement. You know, all those tick boxes for my trading strategies, higher lows, and I am long that right now as that trend is with me. Right or wrong, it's a good trade in my eyes, and that's what we've got is probabilities only. Now, to talk to alt perp, because I think that's really interesting what you're saying is that you're talking about the potential that it could fall from there, but you want it to fail. Now, I can sort of add a little bit, hopefully, to that about why it might fail and cross my toes and fingers. Again, higher low, higher low, higher high, pullback beautifully in that spot. Good convergence running through here as well. Quick look at that weekly shows us that we are coming out of that zone by breaking the highs of these two last weekly candles. Now, that doesn't ensure that we are going to move higher. Not at all. No way in the world. But it does look more bullish than bearish. And if we close something like what we do here in the next hour 40, then a break of that candle could be the point at which we do see alt perp moving higher as well. So, yeah, that's my analysis, and very similar to what you're saying, man. Very similar.
That's well done.
All right, awesome. So let's also do some token metrics analysis. So
we just got consensus.
Absolutely, right? So I know one of the major questions, especially to our audience in America, is how do you play Bitcoin and crypto as we approach the U.S. election? So for those who don't know, the U.S. election is on the 3rd of November, I believe. And ironically, looking at our AI models, obviously they aren't perfect. So this is in no way, shape, or form financial advice. It's just kind of more giving you an idea of where, based on historical pricing and charts, where our models view Bitcoin going. And check this out. Our models have Bitcoin topping exactly on the 3rd of November at around 12,600 or so. That's exactly on the date of the US election. So if anything, the models are right now optimistic as we approach the US election, but I think it definitely does beg the question, is this a time to buy the rumor, sell the news? So basically, once we approach the US election and there's lots of uncertainty, whether Trump or Biden wins, who knows what will happen. Whoever wins, our guess is there'll be lots of just social tension post-election. And I think that maybe the model in a way is kind of picking that up. I'm curious to see what our team thinks. Bill, what's your take on this?
All right. Well, I had a different track I came up with. We're in crypto, and who the president of any one particular country is something for what someone on Twitter called the normie world. Okay. I don't know that. I mean, it matters. Tax policy matters. I can talk about some of the things that I'm looking at, but I was wondering if the pain trade, I don't necessarily always like to use that term, but I'm wondering if now that the market has put everyone to sleep, that the pain trade is for it to go straight up, like what the computer model was thinking. And really interesting to see what Trader Cobb is seeing, where somebody came in, alts went up, down, and then his candlestick and moving average work said, that there was there's a floor there. Or somebody tried to put a floor in. We don't know if it's going to work. Mm-hmm. Right. So I wonder with the election, if the it doesn't matter approach is the right approach. So it's going to be my experiment for the week.
Trader Cobb?
I think you might need a couple more weeks on that one. With November 3. No, that's true. It's going to pick up at some point, right?
Yeah.
It's, man, it's so difficult to really get your head around it, because 4 years ago, that puts us in 2016. Very different market in 2016. Very different players, mostly speculators, mostly no offense to anybody back there, but less sophistication of the investor market in that space. So how it would have reacted back then, I don't know. I think Bitcoin during that period was, I can't remember if it was going up. Or, I mean, I know that we had 2016, it jumped to 1,000 for the first time, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so look, I'm on the fence with it. I don't really know. All I know right now is that you've got to look at supply and demand when it comes to markets. Short-term blips, that they're going to happen, right? That's what markets do. Our market at the moment, being Bitcoin and crypto, seems to be a hell of a lot less erratic, wild, and unpredictable than traditional markets, right? And you look at equity markets, holy crap. It doesn't make sense it doesn't make sense in a market that has enough data for it to make sense. You know what I mean? Like you can either say that makes sense or that doesn't make sense. That's overvalued or that's undervalued, because these are PLCs, they're publicly listed companies. A lot of these companies are so far above valuations, or fair value anyway, in my view, that it defies belief. But markets do what markets want. And right now, as we see Square, we see MicroStrategy, we see all these big companies coming in, there's less Bitcoin available. I genuinely believe that it's going to be a race to the bottom, as in who's going to be last to buy Bitcoin as part of their treasury or their corporate strategy or whatever you want to call it. And I think that's going to drive scarcity. Whether that sends the market flying off into the stratosphere or not, I think the public's going to do that, because no one's going to come out and buy $115 million of Bitcoin on market. They're going to work a position. It takes forever. They're going to OTC it. They're going to be in the ears of the miners. They're going to be probably overpaying for it to get it, because Grayscale's sucking up most of the mining coins. But I think that it's going to be very interesting coming towards the election. I think we've got more probability, and this is my view. I think we've got a higher probability for a move higher than we do for a sharp move lower. But this is crypto. I've been wrong before, and I'll be wrong again.
All right. Well, to our audience, tell us what you think. Are you bullish on Bitcoin as we approach the US election? Are you on the sidelines? Tell us what you think down in the comments below.